Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Court Martial Podcast. Introducing your host for this evening first. He is the host with the most from the West Coast, the Bay Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg. And his partner, he has colonized, energized, and revolutionized the podcasting wrestling world today. Your Colonial Champion, Sean. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, once again to another spectacularly, emphatically important edition of the Court Martial Podcast. I am your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, here once again to give you the penultimate event, ACPW versus NWL, our 10th outing. Melee in Montreal for ACPW, big event going on there, but before we get there, we have the National Wrestling League, and with me to tell you all about it, the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. He is the Bay Area Brawler and the proprietor of the National Wrestling League, as well as West Coast designs and warehouse shipping supplies for all of your shovel needs that you can eventually turn into some Nigerian pontoon, Mr. Skylar Greenberg.
Just because I hired Apollo Crews does not mean I have anything to do with those Nigerian warlords.
You mean you're not going to be engaging in any Nigerian drum fights anytime soon?
No. But speaking of, I have a question for you, Sean.
Oh, okay.
Do you like hurting yourself?
Do you want an honest answer, or are you setting up a bit?
I'm setting up a bit.
Okay, then no, I don't like hurting myself, Sky. Why do you ask?
Because I have to, okay, I wasn't going to say this because I wanted it to be a surprise, but I'm so angry at you right now. Why are you going to watch AEW Double or Nothing?
Now, hold on a second. Let's not jump the gun here. Now, I promised the people here at the Court Martial Podcast that we were not watching Double or Nothing, and I stick by that because we, Skylar and myself, are not. But the totally awesome podcast, JoshAgeddon and myself, are going to watch it. Why, Skylar? Because I am, in fact, some sort of wrestling masochist, and I'm pretty sure I have a problem, but...
Well, unlike you, I keep my promises, and I'm refusing to watch AEW. So you guys just enjoy yourself, okay?
Well, technically, I am keeping my promise to the Court Martial Podcast listeners by not giving a review and not watching the show for the Court Martial Podcast. So I do not deceive our listeners. You could call it a bait and switch at best. At best. How about that? I'll give you that.
Oh, great. You're becoming like Vince McMahon.
Well, hopefully I will not be nearly as forgetful or have booking nearly as stupid a la zombies. But we are here for good booking. We're here for intelligent booking. And there is no one who personifies intelligent booking quite like Skylar Greenberg, the proprietor and booker of the National Wrestling League. So why don't we kick things off with a bang? The floor, Sky, is yours.
With NWL Bound for Greatness.
All right.
And yes, I am stealing that from Impact, but I'm using a different word. But it still works.
Yeah, it's not stealing if it's not the same thing.
Call it imitation, or if you were in the wrestling business, research.
Exactly. Because you've taken things from other people before, not just Impact. So it's if you're gonna, from the wise words of Jim Cornette, if you're gonna steal from several people instead of one, because then it's research instead of plagiarism. Continue.
Exactly. So, Bound for Greatness. We have roughly 8 to 9 matches on tonight's card.
All right.
3 on our pre-show, 6 on our main show. So, let's begin with our pre-show, shall we?
Let's do it.
First match is the Young Bucks versus The Bar.
Oh, dear.
Now, the Young Bucks won last time, so do you think they can win again?
No.
You would be correct, sir. The Bar proceeds to destroy the Young Bucks. It only takes a couple of minutes.
Yeah, it's one thing to beat a fractured Heath Slater, Otis, and Rhino team. It's quite another to take on the freaking Bar.
But mainly, I booked this to get the Bar a victory because they just lost the tag team championships, and they're angry, and they destroy the Young Bucks, and they grab the microphones, and they say that they are not done with Bobby Lashley, Apollo Crews, and Eric Bischoff, and they were stolen. The titles were taken from them with those brass knuckles. And they're on a warpath, and those tag team championships will be around the Bar once again.
Well, they have to have it. They need to have this kind of win that keeps them involved, keeps the title picture, keeps them invested in what's going on still, but still gives them something to keep momentum going on. Unlike other companies that'll just beat you flat and then have you just disappear from existence.
We're going to make you the tag team champions, and then after you lose the titles, we're not going to use you whatsoever.
You'll never be seen again.
The Hurt Business.
Yeah. Oh, God. Poor Cedric himself.
Cedric Alexander, what are you guys doing right now?
I'm not even sure they know.
Exactly. Now, our next match, speaking of things that they don't know and what not to do with people, I have a debut match for two of my new debuts.
Okay.
I have R-Truth versus Dominik Mysterio.
Interesting.
Now, at this point, I would like to remind people that for the most part, everyone's theme songs in the real world is what they have when they debut.
Right.
I'm going to change something for this. So R-Truth makes his entrance. He does his what's up thing and whatever. Dominik Mysterio comes out. Viva la raza.
Oh.
Da, 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 da.
Oh, no.
Da, da, da. I lie, I cheat, I steal.
Oh.
I lie,
What do you mean, Dominik? What is the meaning of this?
Dominik comes out wearing his Eddie Guerrero tribute attire.
Where's Michael Cole to mention his name 60 times when you need him?
Michael Cole has been shot and buried. He's not a commentator for my show.
Jesus. He could just be unemployed, Sky. You don't need to go that far.
You would shoot and bury him. Don't lie.
I would hire him, bury him, and then perhaps record a shoot on Michael Cole. I don't know if I'd perhaps shoot him with an actual firearm. Although I have been tempted in the past.
Again, this is the fictional world of National Wrestling League where I can do whatever I want. So I have proceeded to make gravestones for Michael Cole, Kevin Dunn, and Vince McMahon. Yeah,
I mean, that's fair because I'm not going to do anything with any of those people either. So R.I.P. in the fantasy series.
Right. Anyways, back to my booking.
Yes.
This match goes 5 minutes, and the whole time Dominik Mysterio does his Eddie Guerrero tributes, including the shimmy and the shake, the Three Amigos suplex, and the frog splash.
Little impersonation is the sincerest form of flattery, but it's interesting that Dominik Mysterio, of all people, is doing this.
Right. And in fact, let's find out why. After the match, after the frog splash with the pin 1, 2, 3, Renee Young enters the ring and talks to Domino.
Hey, it's Domino. Where's Deuce and Cherry, bro? I didn't know you had them.
No. So he talks to Dominik Mysterio, and she says, "Congratulations on your victory, but why the Eddie Guerrero theme song and why his moves?" And Dominik looks at Renee like, "Why? Why? Oh, come on, Chica. Don't you see it's obvious? Eddie Guerrero is the best Latino wrestler in the history of professional wrestling. Bar none. No one has ever been able to be what Latino Heat was. And why shouldn't I try to emulate him? Why shouldn't I try to be like Eddie? Because when you think about it, there's no one like Eddie Guerrero." And Renee Young says, "Well, that's great and all, but what about your father, Ray? What does he think about this?" And Dominik Mysterio frowns for a second, then starts chuckling to himself and says, "Oh, Ray, I haven't told him about it. And honestly, I don't give a damn. Because at this point, all I care about is Eddie Guerrero and being the best I can with his moves and his moveset. Because at the end of the day, I want to be a legend like Eddie."
I think it's interesting that Dominik does not call Ray his dad at all in that. So, what kind of falling out have they had up to this point? And you have hired Rey Mysterio, have you not, sir?
Yes, I have. Although he has not technically appeared yet.
Correct.
So let's be clear about that.
But he's there at some point. So we will maybe hear from Mr. Mysterio if Dominik's mouth gets a little too ahead of him. But we shall see what happens.
But do you know the reason why I have chosen this gimmick for Dominik Mysterio?
I have to imagine it has something to do with 2005.
No. Although that does help in the backstory.
Okay.
The reason why is because Dominic Guerrero is very, very green. And because he's very green, he's not able to establish an identity of his own. So the idea I had is why not, if they're going to do the half-hearted Eddie Guerrero stuff, let's go all the way with that. Let's make that a gimmick. And that would legitimately get people pissed. Hey, why are you trying to be like Eddie Guerrero? Isn't your father good enough?
Well, it's definitely going to... It's already adding layers to Dominik while still concealing what are probably his weaknesses up to this point and perhaps can be exploited or further put into an advantageous position once he actually gains more experience.
Exactly, because I can transition it. And in the meantime, he can just do Eddie Guerrero's moves. And if he can copy Eddie Guerrero's moves, hey, that means he doesn't have to be his own guy. He's just copying Eddie, which he already is in real life, but now I'm making it part of the gimmick.
Which makes sense.
Finally, it makes sense. And I wish they would do it, WWE. You could have done it.
No, they're too busy making the first ever father and son tag team champions in the world. Can you believe it, guys?
Which would be nice and all if Dominik actually had the experience to be able to make it work.
He was in the ring for 90 seconds. Sad.
If that.
If that. If that.
But, anyways, we shall move on to our third pre-show match. It is Heath Slater, and it's against a mystery opponent.
Okay.
And the reason why it's a mystery opponent is because Heath Slater is making this an open challenge. He walks out with Otis, and he gets in the ring with the microphone and says, Otis, you've been terrible these last few months. Clearly, you need someone to show you how it's done. And Rhino, I don't miss you, man. You're dead weight. You're going to watch Heath Slater in this ring, and you're going to see why I'm the best of the three of us. So, I'm issuing an open challenge. Anyone in that locker room, come on out here, and I'm going to kick your ass.
Okay. Bold by Heath, but not something Heath hasn't done before.
Not to mention it's Heath Slater just demeaning Rhino the entire time, and Otis is standing right next to him, and he's taking all of it.
Well, you can kind of see Otis as kind of a big beta, though, can't you? Like that's kind of you can see that in him.
Right, and guess what, John? The violins start playing.
Oh, he's here.
Out. And when they come out, it is Shinsuke Nakamura.
He's here.
And the smile on Heath Slater's face fades away. He tries running, but Otis grabs him and like, come on, man, wrestle him. You can beat him. You can beat him. And Heath Slater's like, no, please. Call it. Shinsuke walks to the ring. The referee gets them in the ring. And the bell rings. And after that, Shinsuke starts kicking Heath Slater's shit. This goes for a couple of minutes. I'm not even going to give it 3 or 4 minutes. And Nakamura just does the Kinshasa, ends it. 1, 2, 3.
That's what I used Heath Slater for. Oh, poor Heath. We love you, but poor Heath.
But think about it. I'm building him up as a lower card heel who thinks he's better than Otis and Rhino.
You need lower card heels. You need those types of guys. Shinsuke needs a good win like this. This is Shinsuke's
debut.
Yeah.
He needs to come out and look good.
Yeah. No, this is perfect. It suits its purpose and it's short and sweet and does what it needs to do.
Exactly. Now then, before I continue, I need to do a little bit of housekeeping. So Sean, would you please give the people updates on what we're doing for the next month?
So, for the next month, we got a lot going on in the next month. So we start with the man, not the man of the hour. That's obviously Skylar, but we are talking about the man of notoriety here in CMP, and it's the man who runs our sister channel, the totally awesome wrestling TAW Gaming.
Sean.
He is going to be joining us next week. Then, following that, we've got a tremendous, I think we've got another show that's right at the beginning of June. So we're going to have another couple decent shows. Of course, ACPW versus NWL. We're going to have next month's show in June. Obviously, third week of June. We've got a lot more programming coming up. We got a lot of live streams.
And I believe the fourth week of June, we will do our Hell in a Cell review, because that's when Hell in a Cell will be.
Yep. So we are going to be doing that. Now, I did live stream Hell in a Cell last year. I'm contemplating doing it again, but we have to see where the interest is. We'll see how many of you want it. Because if we want it, we'll make it happen. But we're going to try this again. We haven't done this in a while. We need likes, folks. We need audience participation. And I'm not just talking about the liking and the sharing and the subscribing and the hitting the bell button and switching it to all that we ask you to do every time. I'm asking for this specific video. If you can get this specific video up to, and I'm going to aim high here. I want 15. And if in 2 weeks' time it's not happening, then we'll try again and we'll move it down to 10. But I want the likes. So if you can get this likes up there, we will live stream Hell in a Cell review for you. So you can get all of the action firsthand, and then we'll review it for you. But only if you give us halfway.
Me and Sean break down the show and what we look for and what we don't look for. It's an opportunity to see how we do when we record shows and when we watch stuff.
Yes, you can hear all of the rage firsthand. Anger aplenty. But right now, we are in the middle of some very thrilling programming. So, Sky, if you are ready, let's keep this show going.
Alrighty, our commercial break has ended, and not the show, but the actual commercial break. Now we will move on to the main show, and we will start the main show with Bobby Lashley, Apollo Crews, and Eric Bischoff. And they have a tag team title defense against the Motor City Machine Guns.
Let's do it.
And the Motor City Machine Guns, they make their entrance, the match begins, and they are all quick, all offense, as fast as they can go. And they have the tag team champs on the rails a little bit. Then the tag team champions, they ground one of the Motor City Machine Guns.
Yep.
They get Alex Shelley on the ground, and they start working him. And then they work him for a couple minutes. Chris Sabin makes a hot tag. He goes for a couple minutes. He tries to go for his finisher. But then Eric Bischoff gets on the ring apron, distracts Chris Sabin, and then Apollo Crews hits a clothesline, makes a tag to Bobby Lashley. Then Bobby Lashley grabs him, choke slam. Apollo Crews distracts Alex Shelley. Cover 1, 2, 3.
That's what Bischoff's there for. If it'd honestly be nice to see Bischoff as a full-fledged manager. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like the only thing in pro wrestling that he didn't really do.
And he would be good at it. But this is the thing, and I can't stress this enough. 10-minute tag team match. Babyfaces start hot for the first 2 or 3 minutes. Then the heels take over, work the next 4 or 5, then come back 2 or 3 minutes, and then finishing sequence.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's tag team wrestling.
You don't need it to be that long. One of my biggest complaints with pro wrestling nowadays is everything just drags on forever. Even the good matches. The good matches have to go twice as long as they need to go because the other matches are going twice as long as they need to go. A la that Rey Mysterio and Dominik and Dirty Dogs match we just saw, where that match could have been cut in half.
That's exactly the match I was talking about. That was the structure I just did. It took 10 minutes to do that. Maybe 8, 10 for sure, because this is the tag title match. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
It's if they cut, but you know what? They are told to drag it out for network time and network hours, which also sucks because then everything has to go a jillion times longer than it has to, and it's a shame.
It is a shame. Now then, let's get back to the ring for a second. Eric Bischoff grabs the microphone, and Bobby Lashley and Apollo Crews stand side by side with him.
And Eric Bischoff says, well then, that was pretty simple, huh? Good job, boys. And I heard you, Cesaro, Sheamus. You both want this tag team championships, don't you? Well, I don't think you guys are good enough. You need to prove yourselves because you are not at the level that the Almighty Crew is. In fact, that's why Pat McAfee isn't even here, because he thinks that he's got some other stuff that he's got to do. He's got some money that he has to make. He's got some beautiful time with his beautiful lady. He didn't even need to be champion. He just wanted to be the champion. And that's the same thing for us. So you guys, if you want your title shots, you better prove yourself. And beating the Young Bucks ain't going to do it. Why don't you bring up some real competition and then talk?
What a bastard.
What a bastard. Which, by the way, also explains why Pat McAfee's not on the show. He didn't feel like he needed to be there because there's no one good enough for him.
He did. I'm not on the show because I don't want to be there. Nobody's there to compete me.
I am too busy with my beautiful lady and making money that I don't have time to be there.
He's got a podcast. I mean, that takes time to make.
Right. Which, by the way, another heel trope. Heel champion who does not refuse his who does not defend his championship. Why? Because he does two other things. He got too much other time.
Allegedly.
It would get heat. It would get heat.
It would. It would. It did with Brock.
Also,
it totally did with Brock.
Yep. Also, the other thing, too, is that Pat McAfee is still a being wrestler, so I want to make sure that I protect him.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's totally fair.
Plus, it's Pat McAfee, special attraction. Don't have him on every show.
Right. I think that's also another fair assessment to put on somebody like that, you know? And that's the cool thing, too, about both of our shows is that we've really made a good job of not having everybody on every show and being able to cycle faces to be like, oh, fresh face, cool. So that no one ever becomes too stale.
Exactly, because if they become too stale, then it becomes a problem.
Exactly.
Now, we shall move on to our next match. It is the match of Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn.
Oh, yes. I'm very much looking forward to this match.
And if you remember on the last show, Daniel Bryan was this close to becoming the world champion until Sami Zayn decided to distract him to get on Kevin Owens' good side, except Kevin Owens is a ruthless man who's only out for himself.
Of course.
And Sami Zayn has been dodging Daniel Bryan for weeks because Daniel Bryan is a man on a mission. And this promo package displays Daniel Bryan's tireless quest to get Sami Zayn, including the line at the end, Sami, when I finally get my hands on you, I'm going to kick your fucking head off.
Yeah. Yeah. It's on.
So Sami comes to the ring. He's bitching and complaining the whole time, doesn't want to be in the match. Daniel Bryan comes to the ring, full intent, doesn't even wait for the bell, throws his punches. Sami Zayn does everything he can to try and run away and hide. He goes between the ropes. He begs the referee off. He tries to run around the ring. Daniel Bryan is not having any of it. They get to the ring apron, and Sami Zayn goes to the announce table. He wants a bottle of water. Daniel Bryan goes over. The referee's trying to stop Daniel Bryan. Sami Zayn takes the water bottle, throws it in Daniel Bryan's face, then gives him a punch, and that is all he needs. Daniel Bryan is down. They go back inside the ring. The match starts. Sami Zayn takes over. Daniel Bryan makes his comeback, then proceeds to kick him in the chest. Yes, yes, yes. And the last kick is a scorcher of a kick, and it kicks Sami Zayn out cold. Cover. 1, 2, 3.
I like that. It's not a finisher, but it's the execution of the promo. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to kick your goddamn head off, and then nearly having it be decapitated. Having a knee to the skull finish as a result to get that comeuppance on the peel. Very nice. Very nice.
Not to mention, Sami Zayn fits the cowardly heel perfectly, begging the referee off, getting in between the ropes,
yes,
using a water bottle while the referee's distracted, trying to stop Daniel Bryan in his eyes.
Yeah, all of that. Very valuable.
It's the perfect way to make that match happen, and Daniel Bryan gets his revenge. And you have to imagine that Daniel, he's done with Sami, but he still wants that world title shot.
Oh, yeah,
and a
without
fair
a doubt.
world title shot.
One that he never should have lost.
One that he never should have lost. Now, we shall move on to the next match. And this is where we're going to start getting into the gimmicks, but I need to get into the gimmicks.
Fair enough.
We have a women's title match between Toni Storm and Rhea Ripley, last woman standing.
Oh, this should be good.
Because if you remember, they both knocked each other down and couldn't answer the count of 10.
Yes.
Well, now the count of 10 will decide the winner.
Let's hope they don't both get knocked out again.
Exactly. By the way, I'm going to give this 16 minutes, and I'm going to not be descriptive about this match because there's one specific reason. The finish for this match sees both women, after using every move they have in their arsenal and every weapon that you can think of, on their knees looking at each other, trying to throw every punch they can with the 1-2s, except their 1-2s actually look good compared to the stuff that we got at Backlash.
Right.
And then they both give each other a punch, and they both go down on their backs. The referee counts, and they get to 8. They both get on their knees, and they're facing the ropes in the same direction. And a woman comes from behind, grabs both women, and hits double natural selection.
Oh, God, no. Oh,
it is
no.
Charlotte Flair.
Oh,
and the referee starts counting, and they get to 10. The match ends in a draw.
Oh. God damn it. I knew it. Why? You did the natural selection just to fuck with me. Just be honest.
Because it gets heat.
Yeah, with me.
Now, by the way, now you know why I'm pissed at WWE and Backlash.
Yeah, because they did that double natural selection.
They stole my goddamn finish, but I couldn't better finish. I thought about double spear, but I didn't think Charlotte Spear is good enough.
No, it's really not.
So it's double natural selection.
Yeah. Well, God damn it. God damn it, Charlotte. But at least, it's a lot better with Toni Storm in this equation than it is Asuka.
Yes, because you also know that it's going to lead to a triple threat match.
Because a triple threat match with Toni Storm in the picture is better. Is much better.
Right. Not to mention Charlotte has a purpose. She wants the Women's Championship back from Toni Storm, and she just got rid of the annoying Bianca Belair who called out her name.
Right.
So Charlotte looks like a threat going into this, rather than just coming back and saying, and I want a title shot.
And then getting it.
Exactly.
Because the Queen's like, hey, I want it. And everyone's like, okay.
And Sonya Deville's like, yes.
When did Sonya Deville get authority on that show? Did somebody explain this? When did she become somebody who actually makes things happen?
Apparently after WrestleMania, which, by the way, Adam Pearce was doing that just fine. Why Sonya Deville?
But Sonya also was doing that, like, she had an office back in, like, October. And does somebody explain to me what exactly is her title? What is her position with that company? I would love to know, even kayfabe, what decisions she is allowed to make. Especially because, like you said, Adam Pearce is really the one doing that.
Also, and don't correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they used to say that we're not going to have any authority figures?
Well, I guess because they're not being called authority figures, although they're the ones with authority.
And they're making decisions. WWE confused
this company. Yep.
Anyways, we're going to transition from that last woman standing match. We're going to go to our next gimmick match, but it's a gimmick that's well-deserved because these guys have been fighting since December. Jon Moxley and AJ Styles in our co-main event in a 2 out of 3 falls match.
Okay. Let's, now are these falls all different stipulations, or is it just whoever gets 3 falls?
3 falls. Either,
cool.
That's 2 out of 3, pinfall or submission.
Got it.
We're not taking countouts. We're not taking disqualification.
So can they use weapons?
No weapons.
No weapons. Okay.
Pinfall, submission, no weapons.
Meaning that even if there are no disqualifications, there aren't going to be weapons involved in the match.
This is just pure wrestling.
Okay, cool. I like to make that distinction because WWE does not.
By the way, you want to know why we have to keep doing this? It's because WWE and AEW just abuse the rules to the point where no one knows what the rules are.
Yeah, what rules?
Exactly. By the way, when I say no disqualifications, it means no DQs count towards a pin. If
Right.
you do a DQ,
Right.
it's not going to count.
No, I'm with you.
Okay. Anyways, I'm going to give this match 20 minutes.
Okay. Fair.
AJ Styles is a technical master, and he outworks Jon Moxley, and particularly he focuses on his left arm and does most of his damage to the left arm area, where Jon can't properly do most of his stuff, including the Paradigm Shift DDT, which is his finisher.
Right.
And he does this work for several minutes, and then Jon Moxley does a quick roll-up, 1, 2, 3, to surprise AJ for the first fall.
Oh, okay. That would be a surprise.
This only incenses AJ to continue to beat up Jon Moxley and then puts him down for the second fall after a phenomenal forearm.
Fair.
So now it's one-on-one, and Jon Moxley's still dealing with the bad wing. But he makes his comeback. He fires himself up. It's like he doesn't even feel pain. And Jon Moxley, he goes for his Paradigm Shift DDT. AJ pushes him on the ropes, and he starts complaining to the referee. And Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows come out from the ringside area, and they throw punches at Jon Moxley. Jon fights them off, but then AJ comes from behind, twists him around, hits the Styles Clash, cover 1, 2, 3.
Question.
Yes.
Is the referee distracted when Gallows and Anderson come in?
Yes, because AJ complained about his eye hurting, and the referee had to help him.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure that I understood that correctly. Cool. Down with this.
So then, the club starts beating up Jon Moxley. They start stomping him out. And guess who makes the save? Seth Rollins and the Usos.
What?
And Seth Rollins and the Usos, they chase off the club. And the Usos make sure that the club go away, and they all go to the back except for Seth Rollins. Jon Moxley is trying to get to his feet, and it all makes sense because Roman Reigns' music hits, and he starts walking to the ring.
Well, now things are starting to cook here.
And Roman grabs his microphone as Jon Moxley finally gets to his feet, and Roman says, "Jon, it's been a long time, and trust me, I saw what was happening, and I couldn't stand by no more. That's why I sent help. That's why I gave the Usos and Seth Rollins the right to stop that. Because you're my brother, man. And I need you. This family needs you. We all need you. Because, Jon, with you, we can be the Shield again. We can be the best force in the National Wrestling League. Seth, don't you agree?" And Seth Rollins looks down.
Mm-hmm.
He's not looking at Roman. He just meekly grabs the microphone and says, "Yeah, Jon, trust me. I thought about doing it on my own. But now that I'm with Roman and the Usos, I feel like we can really do something special." And Roman grabs the microphone again. "See, Jon, Seth's on board. So why don't you join us? Come on, brother. Pound it." They put the arms out. Jon Moxley thinks about it. Then he grabs his own microphone and says, No. That's not how it's going to work. I'm not going to be whipped like this dog is," pointing at Seth Rollins. "Roman, just admit it. You just need the family around you because you couldn't get the job done against Drew McIntyre. As far as I'm concerned, I don't need you. I don't need you. I don't need the Usos. You guys are all just going to work together and work your asses off for his benefit. You're not even going to get the world title, Seth, because you know that Roman's going to take that for himself. You want to reform the Shield, it's going to be the Roman Shield, not the Shield. Not when we were equals, all three of us, the brothers, fighting it out day after day after day. No, Roman, you're going to make yourself king, aren't you? Admit it." And Roman, deceptively angry, then starts smiling, grabs the microphone and says, "You're not wrong, Jon. You're not. But trust me, Jon, either you join me or you're against me. And John grabs the microphone and says, "I'll see you, and let's see who blinks first." At that, Roman grabs Jon Moxley and puts him in the guillotine choke, and Seth Rollins can't even look. And Roman starts choking out Jon Moxley until John passes out. Roman grabs the microphone again, gets down on one knee, looks at Jon Moxley and says, "The next time I ask you to submit, say you submit, or I will make you disappear."
The plot thickens. The plot definitely thickens, but it's definitely like Moxley to be like, nah, screw you guys.
Not to mention to know the game that Roman was playing.
Yeah, that's definitely. And the thing is, like, Moxley in NWL is so much more palatable than Moxley pretty much anywhere else because A, you're restricting him on what he's able to do and what he's not able to do, and B, you're also not delegitimizing the whole premise of what he is and his attitude towards not only pro wrestling but also himself. And it's so much better this way. So where you want to see what is going to happen with Moxley, you know that Rollins is still conflicted. The Usos are just brainless at this point because Roman's got them just on the leash, and maybe we'll see something later. But right now, Moxley is definitely going to try to get through to Rollins. I think that's where this is headed. He's got to get through.
But the other thing, too, is that with Rollins, he's always been the one that's kind of needed someone to help him. Like, he was with the Shield, and then he had the authority behind him.
J&J Security.
J&J Security. Then he had his Black Hand group. Seth Rollins has always needed people behind him because he didn't want to be on his own, or he needed people that he could manipulate or fall in line with. He's always been like a whipped boy. He's never been on his own. Jon Moxley's a loner. He's a brawler. He does things by the tune of his own horn. He doesn't need other people. He just happened to work with Shield, and they became like brothers.
And Roman Reigns is Roman Reigns. That goes without saying.
Right. And Roman Reigns with an air of arrogance and confidence, but he wants to be the king.
Well, he's going to have his work cut out for him, but it's not to say that he can't do it. But we have got a main event still.
Yes, we do. It is the main event of Adam Edge Copeland versus Kevin Owens for the World Championship. And I should mention, by the way, that Beth Phoenix and Edge's daughters, Lyric and Ruby, are in attendance front row.
Now, before you continue with this guy, there have been rumors. I'm glad we're doing this today. There have been rumors of a potential SummerSlam match, I think, with Edge versus Kevin Owens. So it's a good thing you're getting this on paper first, so the world can know that it was done here.
And then they can proceed to steal it because, God damn it.
But at least we'll have the evidence to claim that we did it first, or you did it first.
Well, I'm not going to do it exactly the way I have it unless Kevin Owens turns heel and Edge goes back to being a babyface.
True. Well, you never know with those two.
You never know with WWE.
It's true.
Babyfaces turn heel.
It's true.
Anyway, the reason why I mentioned that Beth Phoenix and Lyric and Ruby are in attendance is because Edge makes his entrance and he goes out to kiss his wife and hold his daughter's hands. And this is the opportunity, the first time they've seen Daddy wrestle for the world title. But the fans start crying out. They start yelling at Edge. And Edge, quick as a cat, turns around and throws a punch at Kevin Owens, who charged him from behind. Because if you remember, it was 1 year ago when they wrestled against each other, roughly a year ago, that Kevin Owens used that exact same strategy of attacking Edge before the match to get an advantage.
That's right. That's right. And Edge this time saw it coming.
Well, the fans helped him out, too, by yelling and hollering and hooting.
True.
And Edge knew what was going to happen.
True.
He could feel it that Kevin Owens was going to attack him. Right in front of his family, too. That's such a heel move for Kevin Owens to do.
Well, he got him.
But Edge got him, and he is pounding on him. The referees have to separate these two, but they are seething at the mouth at each other. They get back into the ring. The referee goes ahead and skips the ring intros because we're going to skip the ring intros because these two cannot be pulled apart. And they start brawling with the hockey punches because they're Canadians, yes, too, but also the hockey punches.
All right.
You know, I know you hate the hockey punch.
I'll let it happen this time just because if there's two people that are going to make it look actually convincing and like they're actually hitting each other, it'd be those two.
Right. And Edge is just a little bit better than Kevin Owens. He sits a little bit more power, a little bit better technique. And he's the one who is driving the force home.
He's in a little bit better shape than Owens, too.
Okay, come on. Kevin Owens is the world champion for men out there who are not in shape.
Hey, no, I'm not disputing that. I like Kevin Owens, but it's way too easy. It's an easy jab, and I took the easy jab. Continue.
Okay, well, just be careful because Kevin Owens may give you a 7.
He might. He just might.
Right. But then he takes advantage. He takes the ring ropes and he hangs up Edge. And Edge is down. And Kevin Owens starts working on Edge, and specifically Edge's neck. And everything Kevin Owens does is on that neck because he's softening it up. He's making it work on Edge's surgically repaired neck and body. And this is vicious from Kevin Owens. And he doesn't just want to win. At one point, he takes Edge, puts him on the steel steps in front of his own wife and kids, and yells at them and says, "Look what I'm going to do. I'm going to paralyze Daddy and send him home in a wheelchair." And this is enough to get Edge fired up. When Kevin Owens tries to stop, Edge gets out of the way. Kevin Owens grabs his foot, and Edge takes Kevin Owens, throws him back into the ring, over the ring post, and he gets back into the ring himself and starts beating up Kevin Owens again. And he goes for the spear. As he goes for it, Kevin Owens tries to reverse it like he did in the first match, but Edge is able to turn him around, do a neck breaker, a swinging neck breaker, if you will.
Of course.
And he goes to the corner one more time to get ready for the next spear. He goes for it. Kevin Owens gives a kick to the head, then does the stunner on the neck. Cover. 1, 2. Kick out by Edge at 2.5.
Wow.
And Kevin Owens can't believe it. He hit his best move, and he can't beat Edge. So he decides to do the one thing that he needs to do. And Kevin Owens, he grabs the championship, and he starts walking up the ramp, and you can hear the fans booing.
Boo! Boo!
You suck! You suck! You suck! Kevin Owens gets to the stage with the championship held up high as Edge is in the ring. The referee's count is at 7. And the theme song for Drew McIntyre hits.
Oh, snap.
And Drew McIntyre, he's back. And he remembers what Kevin Owens did to him, powerbombing his own neck on that ring apron. Kevin Owens turns around in horrified face, sees the Big Daddy Drew, the Scottish psychopath, and he starts backing up, running back to the ring. And before anything else can happen, Edge off the ropes with a spear. Cover. 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Edge is the world champion.
That's pretty big. That's pretty damn big.
Drew McIntyre from the stage looks upon Kevin Owens, smiles, and walks off. He did what he needed to do.
And so, wow. So Edge, from zero to hero, from where Edge was when you first started him to bring him all the way to here, I'm really enjoying just how long-term this storytelling is without actually making it the cliche of, oh, we'd made a whole bunch of stuff happen by accident because long-term storytelling. This has had a logical progression from the start of where Edge was to where he is now that gives Kevin Owens and Drew something major to work with going into the next several weeks, going into next month and the following months, because this is definitely a feud that is going to take more than 1 month, I would imagine. But you still have an opportunity for a rematch with Kevin Owens, who's still in the mix here. This is really, really well done.
Well, I haven't finished the show yet.
Of course not.
Edge, Because Edge gets his wife and his daughters in the ring, and he's celebrating with the World Championship. And Edge grabs the microphone and says, you know, when I came back, I didn't think I had it anymore. But I told myself, one more chance. One more chance. Like my friend Christian always said, one more match. And I stuck to it. And I stuck to it. And I stuck to it. And with the support of the wonderful ladies I have here in my life, I am champion once again. But you know what? As much as I enjoyed being champion, it is time for me to walk away. But I've done what I needed to do. I became champion in front of my daughter's eyes. They never saw me wrestle in my prime. And girls, I hope you guys got to see what Daddy was able to do, because Daddy's so proud. And I know that you will be wonderful women. But for me, this is the end. And thank you, everyone, from the bottom of my heart. But let me celebrate this one night as your world champion. And with that, Edge celebrates with the World Championship and his wonderful family. And he leaves the arena as the fans cheer him on and confetti flies around. And the following day, Edge retires and vacates the championship.
This is a pretty good, this is interesting. So Edge is pretty much done now. You've wrapped up the Edge storyline, which means you're going to have a vacancy that you'll have to end up filling in at some point.
And there are several contenders that you have to think about. Drew McIntyre, Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens was just world champion. You have Roman Reigns hanging around. You have AJ Styles and Jon Moxley, Seth Rollins, Keith Lee. Maybe we need a certain match to fill up all these guys and see who comes out on top.
Oh, are we seeing a revival? Oh, boy.
Maybe we need to see the survival game.
Oh, boy. We saw it last year. So we will see what becomes of that. That is a very fun teaser going in. So this was a hell of a show, sir. And I almost, damn you, sir. Because this is my show here. This is the one ACPW. This is a major event of ours. And then you come out of the gate with this. And you make it a lot harder to top what you have just given. Because that was a hell of a show that you have put together here for the month of May, with the Edge, the feel-good victory, and sending the fans home happy and ending Edge's career, at least as far as we know.
Now, let's go into my planning and booking, because you want to know how long I've been planning this?
I'd imagine from the start.
When I drafted Edge.
Yeah. This I could see being. You said when at the beginning at the draft that you have a story for Edge that would make his run really meaningful, and this really did. It really did. It was a great start to finish. The entire open and closed book of what Edge wanted and needed to do, what he could give to a company like NWL or WWE if they had gone that direction. It's very fitting what Edge is and was for NWL. And I wish we could have seen something closer to this in real life.
I feel like this is the way you could have done it with him winning the world title at this WrestleMania, had you kept him a babyface and made it a one-on-one match with Roman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why they did...
Especially the whole daughters and wife in the crowd thing. That would have made WrestleMania Night 2 perfect.
And you look at how short-sighted that is, especially considering that Daniel Bryan's contract was just up weeks later. Why put him in that position?
Because then you make the fans have to pick between two people, so the only thing you could do was turn Edge. As much as I love Daniel Bryan, the Edge story would have been so much more powerful.
Yeah. It would have had so much more meaning behind it, especially with fans. With the fans there. Well, NWL did it, and they did it right.
Exactly. And the other thing, too, now I'm going to reveal this, and I didn't originally plan this because of the whole speaking out thing. Originally, I was going to have Edge take the title off of Velveteen Dream. Because if you remember, I drafted Velveteen Dream, and I had him beat Edge in one of the matches.
Well, I think it's just as well.
But I realized that Kevin Owens is much better being that type of heel.
Yeah.
But also, Velveteen Dream just got released from WWE.
Plus, that gimmick, I don't think, would have matched what Edge was trying to achieve. I mean, I'm sure
Right.
you could have pulled it off, but Kevin Owens, as you said, Kevin Owens definitely quantifies that demeanor better.
Now, another thing, and I was thinking about this if I had gotten the opportunity. You want to know who the original fan? Because Velveteen Dream was my second choice and Kevin Owens was my third. You want to know who I wanted originally for the storyline to be the heel?
Oh, God. Who was the first person you lost?
Well, who was the first person you drafted?
MJF. Of course.
I wanted MJF so badly to be that heel.
Now, that would have been fantastic. But
The
MJF
young up-and-coming
is
heel,
busy.
The young upcoming heel.
Yes. That would have been great. Honestly, that would have been terrific. And maybe in another lifetime, we will get that storyline. But you want to hear what MJF is doing, you got to switch the channel.
Of course.
You got to switch the channel over to Atlantic Coast Pro Wrestling. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, for the Melee in Montreal. And here we are in Montreal, Quebec, and it is going to be a hell of a show. I am excited. We have 10 matches on this card. And it's mostly matches. We have a couple promos, but as we all have learned, this is the big moment. This is the big, well, it's a big show. So.
Screw you. Screw you.
He's not, well,
you had to do it.
It's a Paul White. It's a Paul White show tonight. That still kind of works. Anyway.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Just so you think.
We begin the show. Hello, Matt Stryker and Taz here. Getting ready to bring you our Melee in Montreal. We have 16,000 strong here. Could you imagine for a territory? That'd be pretty good. That'd be pretty darn good. But for a show like this,
well, 3,000.
Yeah, we have a sizable house. Let's just call it a sizable house here for this show. It is Rob Van Dam starting out the show against Darby Allin. This match goes 5 minutes. Because it's the first match on the show, and there's 10 matches, and we got to keep this show going. What happens here is Darby Allin actually gets the advantage on Van Dam after like a thumb to the eye or something, and gets Van Dam down. Darby Allin goes for the coffin drop. Van Dam dodges. I was going to have Van Dam get the knees up, but I really don't want Darby Allin to take that spot. Getting double knees on
be able to take that spot?
a double knees on a blind backdrop? No, I would not do that to Darby Allin.
Wouldn't that just basically be a Frankensteiner or a reverse Frankensteiner?
Well, when Darby Allin just does his coffin drop and Van Dam gets the knees up, it would hurt. But in any case,
I'm sure it would.
Instead, Van Dam rolls out of the way. So Darby Allin just lands flat on his back and sells it. And Van Dam sees that opportunity perfectly to go for a rolling thunder, gets up, hits the 5-star, and we're done here.
By the way, I should mention that Rob Van Dam, usually not the bigger wrestler in most of his matches.
Yeah.
But Darby Allin will make anyone look big.
Yeah, and that's really what's holding him back from doing anything in ACPW other than what I have him doing in ACPW. It's not his fault. He lays this stuff in. It's not his fault. He looks good doing what he does. That's why I want him on the show. Because I'm all about even the job guys looking good doing what they do.
It's just too bad you couldn't take Darby Allin's mind and put it in someone else's body.
Well, instead we're going to have to deal with Rob Van Dam. But Van Dam did his deal. And because he's not with Katie Forbes, although she's coming up. But let's get to that later.
Katie Forbes, to me, is the natural selection to you.
Yes, it's the immediate heat seeker, and I love it. I love it. So we got another match coming up. Of course, we had a quick discussion about what that match was, and then we have our next match. It is Dustin Rhodes in his in-ring debut taking on Kenny Omega.
Why?
Because Dustin needs a win. So
I know, but why Kenny Omega? Why not anyone else?
this match goes 3 minutes, and 90 seconds of this match is pretty much just posturing and just standing around as Omega, or as Dustin kind of gets the crowd into this. So they do the head, they do the collar and elbow, headlock, drop down, leapfrog hip toss. Although Omega gets the hip toss on Dustin. And Dustin takes the bump, and then all of a sudden Omega's bobbing his head like a fucking idiot. And he's pointing.
Does he start doing the chicken dance?
Then he points at he doesn't do the chicken dance, but he does point. He points down and does the bang that he tries to do. Then he runs into the rope to go for a V-trigger. And when he goes for a V-trigger, Goldie just hits Goldie punch. Dustin hits the Goldust punch. And so he doesn't even get the V-trigger. He just wham, punch up. And of course that turns around. Dustin gets up, hits the curtain call, because his move is not going to be a code red. It's not. It's going to be his old curtain call move, which I actually liked, did neck damage.
Maybe if he was younger, he could do the code red.
Yeah. I mean, he's doing it now. Don't get me wrong. I like the fact that he's doing it now. But I like Dustin Rhodes for not because of his moves. So, if that makes any sense. So Dustin then hits the curtain call, neck breaker, and pins Kenny Omega. Real quick, I just laid it down literally spot for spot for you.
Please fire Kenny Omega.
He's a good jobber, and I still have plans for him.
Oh.
I still have plans. I am morphing him into my image. It is not my art. It is my image. But we have better things to do than to talk about Kenny Omega for an extended period of time on this program. We've already talked longer about Kenny Omega than his match went. So then we go down to Tony Schiavone, who's in the back with Brian Cage. And Brian Cage, of course, has a match later on tonight against Randy Orton. After Randy Orton, of course, caused Brian... Well, let's just get to it in the promo. So Tony Schiavone says, well, Brian, you have a match later on tonight against Randy Orton. And what are your thoughts going into this match where Randy Orton has gotten the jump on you twice now? Once that cost you the world title. And Brian Cage says, well, Tony, I've spent a lot of time thinking about why I'm here at this moment and not wearing the ACPW Heavyweight Championship anymore. And there's really only one common connection between everything that's happened between then and now, and that's Randy Orton. Randy Orton stuck his nose where it didn't belong and got involved in my world title match with Jeff Cobb and cost me my belt, as you said, Tony. Randy Orton, in the middle of me minding my own business and getting a victory that I needed, decided to stick his nose where it didn't belong and hit me in the skull and try to concuss me out of a position here in ACPW. And I'll be damned if someone is going to take me from my living when I have a wife and kid at home who rely on me. So Randy Orton, you call yourself a bounty hunter, but I said it before, you can't hunt something that's already terminating. So I'm taking you, Randy Orton, and your line has been more than crossed. Your boundary has more than been invaded, because I will be the one hunting you, and there will be nothing left when the man falls to the machine.
One criticism about that promo. It's a good promo. One criticism. I can't see Brian Cage cutting that kind of promo.
He's really not that good. Thank you for complimenting my promo, Sky.
See, I want to give you the compliment sandwich.
I understand.
See, that promo was very good. I just don't think that Brian Cage can do that kind of promo.
Brian Cage cannot cut that
promo. Maybe you could give it to someone else who could.
Well, this is wishful thinking that everybody on my show can talk.
I think the thing with Brian Cage, he's a good physical body. Wrestling ability, meh. Talking ability, even worse. yeah, kind of has to be like a Brock Lesnar. Brian Cage is the kind of guy who needs a manager, and that's why I like his combination with Taz, because Taz is pump his ass off.
Normally, I would pair him with that, and the problem was Cage was actually getting better with promos until AEW really came along, but that's why Taz is doing it instead of him, and he was getting better. He was honestly getting better to where he could cut it. If he cut a promo half this good, I'd still be fine with it. To be fair,
I think it's just too many words from him.
Yeah, well, I am also very long-winded, and Brian Cage would not. So if you condense that promo down into a Brian Cage sizable level of you're not going to take, the key points of you're not going to take away my living. You tried to take away my living. You take away my championship. You tried to take away my living. I'm going to kick your ass because I'm a machine. That's more Brian Cage. And that would work fine too, because that's more Brian Cage.
Again, my criticism is not of the promo itself, but the idea of the promo. Because I don't like the idea of the promo because I can't see Brian Cage cutting it.
Right. I feel
it's kind of like, because I feel like Brian Cage is kind of like the Hulk. Short words must smack.
Yeah, and the thing too is like, as you do as well, I'm mostly just cutting what I would cut were I in this position. So I'm not nearly doing the service that Brian Cage probably would in that respect. So I agree with you, Sky, on the criticism. Like, I get it, because he would not. I agree that he would not be able to cut that kind of a promo. But if I gave him that kind of bullet points and then he made it into his me, Solomon Grundy, kick Orton's ass, then that's fine. I'm content with that too.
I mean, let's see what happens with Brian Cage. You got a match with Randy Orton. We'll see what happens.
Yes, we definitely will. And especially after he was, of course, it was concussion protocol. It wasn't a concussion that he was entered into after he did get punted in the head by Mr. Randy Orton. But we must move on.
Yeah.
Because our next match, and this one, I'm probably more proud of this finish than I should be. It is Andrade Cien Almas with Zelina Vega taking on Trevor Mann.
He's a manly man.
He is. He's a man, and I'm not going to say the slogan this time because he's a babyface right now, and I can't afford to give him heat because he needs this babyface time. This match goes 8 minutes. Now, it is worth noting that in Andrade's entrance, like he used to do, he is wearing his mask, and then he takes it off for the match. And where he takes it off is not seen. You just see, he takes his mask off, but like what he does from there, that's just where we're quantifying this here. So, mask on when he enters, takes it off. Match goes 8 minutes because it's a 10-minute time limit, so there would be enough to do here. Trevor Mann is making his comeback. Zelina runs interference on the comeback as she gets up on the ropes to distract the referee. And as the referee is distracted, Trevor Mann gets up and he sees Zelina and he's going to go over to her. But before he does that, he sees Andrade coming to charge Trevor Mann, and he dodges out of the way, and Andrade hits the ref and Zelina's head and back hit the ring barricade, and she is out. But theoretically, this would get a pop because she has been a heel this entire time, and what she did for Trevor Mann, and Trevor Mann is, of course, trying to get his comeuppance for Pentagon breaking his arm and taking him out of action for months. So there's that. She's out. Then Andrade goes to cheat, but obviously right there on it is Trevor Mann, who hits the 630, goes for the pin. There's no referee because the referee also took a bump because they both got hit by Andrade. So as Trevor Mann goes to resurrect the referee, Andrade goes to the corner where he took off his mask and grabs his mask, turns it backwards, and puts it over Trevor Mann's head. So Trevor Mann can't see. And as he can't see, and he turns around, he immediately turns around into Andrade's hammerlock DDT, takes the mask, throws it out of the ring, covers Trevor Mann, and the referee cover 1, 2, 3. Andrade wins.
That's a very creative finish because that's not the finish I was expecting.
Here's why. I'll tell you why I made this finish. Because, number one, as much as I wanted Trevor Mann to win this match, Andrade could not afford to lose it. He debuted in a draw with Finn Balor. Zelina Vega is still a pretty prominent mid-card heel manager for what she was doing with Pentagon and especially now what she's doing with Andrade. I have plans for Andrade. I can't have him lose. I can't have him in the context of a record be 0-1-1 on his debut. I can't have him do that. But I don't want it to be a clean victory so that it doesn't hurt Trevor Mann as badly, because he had the match won against Andrade, but it also gives Trevor Mann the comeuppance on Zelina that they were aiming for, because Zelina got knocked out from Trevor Mann being one step ahead of the game and of their plans. So now Trevor Mann can do other things while Andrade faces somebody else, on the premise that he got the comeuppance even though he didn't win, but he had the match won, but you could still buy him viably as somebody who had won that match as a viable contender in that mid-card range.
Plus, the other thing, too, is that just like with the Edge and Kevin Owens thing, you could always rematch them later, and you can try and continue that storyline if you wanted to. That's the whole thing with Kevin Owens and Edge, is that they have prior history, and I didn't exactly plan it originally to have them do the rematch, but it just fell into place.
Yeah.
Same thing with this kind of match. You can have rematches later on and mention the history as long as you make it meaningful to what's going on now.
Right. And that's kind of why the idea that Andrade and Trevor Mann, I just got to put that on a back burner, because I'm moving forward with other plans for both of them. And it's just, this gave Andrade what he needed. It dealt the least amount of damage to Trevor Mann, but he also got his comeuppance on Zelina at the same time, and still and didn't win only because Andrade had to cheat.
Exactly. And
twice.
Again, it builds the history that eventually, if you want to do the rematch, you could do the rematch. And you could do a story involving this type of finish. Just like I did with the Kevin Owens and Edge thing, where I did the callback to the first match with Kevin Owens attacking Edge before the bell rang.
And to my knowledge, I've never seen a finish like that, where somebody uses their mask actually like against the opponent to get the advantage.
That was actually interesting, because up until when Zelina took that bump, because I've seen the Andrade Zelina bump like that, but the way Andrade won with the mask, that's interesting and unique.
Yeah, so it's
credit to you, sir. Credit to you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So that is, I was really excited about that. That's probably the most creative finish on the whole show, I will admit. But that one specifically, just because I've never seen it before. But moving on, we have got.
Now watch WWE take it and use it.
yeah, absolutely. I can totally
Rey
see.
Mysterio use that mask against an opponent on that.
Yeah. Oh, you never know. You just never know when WWE will just randomly ransack ideas. So up next.
Oh, that's such good shit, pal.
Up next. This is good. This is an interesting one. It is MJF versus Shorty G. Now, these two have a really interesting history, because MJF and Shorty G just kind of bumped into each other literally 1 week. And they started yelling at each other. And then Shorty G started cutting a promo about amateurs in reference to MJF, and then MJF took exception to being called an amateur. And that has led to this matchup. And then, of course, Shorty G was nearly cost a match by MJF being a prick, and nearly cost, even though MJF is the babyface, but he was getting the, kind of shutting the heel up and nearly costing him the match, although he didn't cost him the match against Man Scout Jake Manning, who, by the way, I have found out is not retired. He had teased he was retiring, but he is not in fact retired. I thought I was going to have to drop him, but I won't. So
he did that whole, I'm going to retire, and then like, just kidding, I have a match.
No, what he ended up doing was that he quit his day job at a place that involved wrestling to install HVAC systems, I guess, as his real job. And then he is also going to be wrestling all over the place as well. He just chose another job that he could do pretty much anywhere. But he worked us.
So basically what he's doing is that he worked us.
Yes, he got me. He got me. But this matchup, but he did not get Shorty G, who ended up winning that match and nearly breaking his ankle. But MJF is a different character and a different wrestler here. So we've got a hell of a matchup. This match goes 15 minutes. It's a hell of a fight. MJF gets the advantage over Shorty G in the beginning, you know, to prove that he's not an amateur. And then, of course, Shorty G gets the heat spot, blah, blah, blah. They go back. MJF gets a really big comeback. The crowd's really into this. You know, they're fighting back and forth. And then all of a sudden, there's an Irish whip reversal. They're both moving at once. They hit a double clothesline. And they're double clothesline. They're both laying down, and it's a double clothesline. Ding. It's a draw.
You did not. You did. Oh, boo.
It's a draw. So then they both get up and they're immediately going back to fight again. They're going back to immediately just start tearing each other apart. And the referee actually separates them and says, no, it's over. Guys, it's over. 15 minutes. That's all you guys had. That's it. The match is done. And MJF looks at Shorty G, and Shorty G looks at MJF, and Shorty G goes to leave the ring, gets outside the ropes, and then just goes right into MJF's face, a big glob, and MJF just goes to like tear him apart, and Shorty G skirts away like a chicken shit heel.
That is nasty, especially because of COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also goes to show what Shorty G thinks of MJF, especially because of his whole I'm the superior athlete in every single athletic endeavor that I actively choose to be in.
Yes, that's a fantastic gimmick that we came up with together.
It is. It totally is. And I love that he's still doing it. And so here's why I draw. I want to keep this going, because I think there's more that can be gotten out of MJF and Shorty G. It started with this whole thing with amateurs, but I see depth there. And I also see these two actually having some pretty good chemistry.
Not to mention, if you're going to do a way to have a feud continue, the draw works.
Yes, and Shorty G still gets heat here because of this big-ass loogie just hawked in MJF's face. MJF would understandably be furious. And so...
Exactly. It's a great way to continue a feud that you want to continue.
Yes, and so we will see how far this MJF and Shorty G deal goes. But now it is time. We had JR, good old JR, is in the back in the quote unquote, because this is the words that they have given us, the war room of the cult. So here we go. We go into the war room, and it's just the backstage. It's just the locker room. And JR goes, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with the cult of Cornette, in case that was not understood from this, but I guess this is the war room. And there, of course, everybody's yelling, you know, FTR is starting to yell, you know, all sorts of things. And Randy Orton's kind of sitting in the corner, just like festering. And Jeff Cobb is like punching a locker. And Jim Cornette is frantically yelling at everybody. He's like, you got to stop doing that. We don't have time for this, JR. We have got too much going on right here. This is the ultimate night. Melee in Montreal. We've waited a long time for this. It's time for the conspiracies to come to an end. Here and now. Right here, right now. This exact moment. The time is upon us. The night is here. Jeff Cobb puts to bed the rumors that Titus O'Neil could possibly stand up against a man who is deservedly the world's heavyweight champion. We have Randy Orton, the bounty hunter, about to take on what he calls himself a machine, but that machine is about to have its circuits busted at the hands of the slippery, slithery snake that Randy Orton is. And we have the greatest tag team champions of all time, FTR. They want it in a cage. They've got it in a cage. They had better be careful for what they ask for because they're about to pay the piper. But, JR, we do not have the time to be sitting here talking to you. Hey, you better be focused. We do not have the time to sit here to be talking to you, and the fans don't need to hear what we're doing. This is a strategic room. We're making plans, Jim Ross. We are too busy here to be bothered by you. So right now, I'm focused on what FTR is doing, till so much so that I'm trusting the world champ to get it done alone tonight. And I'm trusting Orton to get it done alone tonight. Because these two know how to get the job done when push comes to shove. We've got bigger things at hand. We got to prepare for a steel cage match, which, by the way, we shouldn't even be in the first place. And Arn Anderson, don't think I've forgotten about you. You've put me in a hell of a position, and I promise you, you will rue the day you have forced me to work this hard, because this is not part of the deal. But when the deal's done, we're going to be the ones laying the trump cards and taking all the winnings when it's all said and done. Now, Jim Ross, get out of here. We got to prepare.
Now, you see, that's the person that can use the long-winded promo to his advantage.
Because Cornette is very long-winded.
Exactly. But that's the thing, though, by the way. You have Jim Cornette working the stable. As much as I love what I do with Eric Bischoff, I think what you're doing with Jim Cornette is even better.
Well, it's not that hard to impersonate Cordy when he really wrote the book on how to do these types of promos and to manage this guy around. And really, this Corny's group here is just taken from all sorts of groups that have done this type of thing in the past. You know, there's hints of Evolution in here. There's hints of the Heenan family in here. You know, what was the group before? Gary Hart's group from WCW back in the 80s, who had a stable very similar to this, although Gary Hart was a little more stoic, whereas Jim Cornette is just utterly frantic.
See, that's the thing, is that I think Jim Cornette more does the, more does the Jimmy Hart kind of thing. But again, I like this stable. This stable, it's a very well put together stable. He gave them a reason to be together, and that's why they're all working well together. And it's just perfect because they all work together so well. They complement each other so much.
Yeah, they do. And then here's and so as JR is right, JR is now outside of the door, right? The cameras followed Jim Ross because they've kicked him out. And then as they're about to cut back, JR's like, well, the Cult of Cornette obviously busy. And right as he says that, Cornette busts out of the room again and shuts the door. And he goes, let me tell you something, Jim Ross. One quick note, because I want to be out there for Titus O'Neil tonight. I wanted to be out there for Jeff Cobb, but I know Jeff Cobb is going to be just fine. Because I never let a man go it alone, no matter where I am and no matter what I'm doing. Everyone in the cult looks out for the cult. But let's make something clear, Titus O'Neil. I know you're afraid. I know the fear in your heart. When you look into a man like Jeff Cobb's eyes, you see that strike, that ice-cold chill go down the length of your spine. And I know you feel it, and I know that you're afraid. Then you're really nothing but a chicken. You're nothing but a little chicken shit, afraid to fight Jeff Cobb. And we're going to expose you in cowardice. The Titus O'Neil will be exposed tonight. You will be shown for what you are. Now, get the hell out of here, JR. We got to move.
I like how Jim Cornette says one more note and then does another promo.
Because that's just... Would Corny not do that, though?
That's totally a corny thing.
He would totally be like, oh, and one more thing. Second promo. and
Jim
really...
Ross better leave before he gets a third.
And really, the thing is here... The reason why I'm doing this is that this is a long show because it's our main show, and this really gets the conversation for all of these guys out of the picture, right? They're all now accounted for the hype of their matches.
Not to mention, it also helps with the idea that, hey, this is a stable. They all hang out together. They all do stuff together. This is a group of guys who are working together and not just a random assortment of talent.
And it also helps to further the point that that Cornette is very upset with the whole conspiracy of, Arn Anderson doing his job. But the franticness of what's going on here. But the franticness of this implies that they weren't prepared for things to not be just catered to them. And it fits for what they've been doing and, like, the narrative they've been pushing, that they're all, like, just a tad nervous about tonight.
They could realistically lose it all.
They could. It's coming, but now JR goes back to Matt Striker and Taz, and it's just Taz. And
that, by the way, that line, by the way, Jim Cornette saying that the Enforcer has a conspiracy because he's doing his job.
Well, that's pretty much what it is. It's like, how dare you, Orton Anderson? How dare you do your job and book matches that we're supposed to defend
Monday
against?
to Friday, 9 to 5, and put on a show for the fans.
I know, but that's the perfect kind of, I don't want to say delusional heel, but like just outside the touch of reality heel. That it's still viable. It's still viable, but it's not. It's. You can tell that obviously it's hard to sympathize with Jim Cornette's plight.
But also because Jim Cornette probably is sweating it because he knows deep down that, again, the whole championships that he's and his family have been working hard for could be gone.
Yeah. This could go very poorly for the cult of Cornette if things don't go the right way. Well, then we go back to Matt Striker and Taz, and it's just Taz. And Taz goes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you're wondering where Matt Striker is. Matt actually was asked to conduct the interview here. So he is actually down into the ring. We're going to go to Matt Striker, who's in the ring now. And he is there with the Hardys. Matt, take it away. And the Hardys there tonight. And Matt goes, well, Matt and Jeff, tonight's the night. Of course, this is big for you guys. This is arguably your last chance. It's a steel cage match for the ACPW Tag Team Championships. What are you guys feeling going into your match? And Matt Hardy says, Matt, the reason we asked for you specifically is that as much as we love Toni, as much as we love Jim, we wanted to give them a little bit of a break because, dear God, they have been working their asses off here, as is everyone in ACPW. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge everyone who has put this show together. But I will not acknowledge the fact that FTR call themselves the tag team champions after everything that they've put us through, screwing us out of the championships not once, but twice, but also making it that much harder for anyone here to take ACPW seriously because nobody believes that champions who cheat actually represent true athletic competition. And Matt and Jeff, that's us. We're the Hardys. We've seen competition all over the world, all over the entirety of this good earth that we have been bestowed. And I will not stop until FTR is brought down. We will get the championships we've been owed, we've deserved, and we've earned for our years. And just because we're a little bit older doesn't mean that we don't have it anymore. And FTR, there's no Jim Cornette left to save you when you're in those steel walls, and there's no one who knows the extreme that it takes to win a steel cage match quite like the Hardys. Isn't that right, Jeff? And Jeff says, when we're locked in the cage, extreme goes to a whole different level. There's two things the Hardys are the best at: getting extreme and winning titles. We'll see you tonight, boys.
Jeff Hardy cutting that promo sounds weird. I don't know why.
Well, again, Jeff, if I had it my way, Jeff probably wouldn't talk. It's not that Jeff's a bad talker, but I've always thought Matt the better speaker. Yeah.
He's not a good talker.
Yeah. I've always thought Matt the better promo. So I wanted to keep what Jeff said short, but I wanted them both to get some words in, because I kept them silent during this contract signing, and I didn't feel that was right.
No, you have to give the Hardys at least a voice.
Yeah. Yeah, especially because if this is really their last chance and no one gets in, no one gets out, and they're looking to bring prestige to titles, which the Hardys would do. This, you know, obviously, like I said from the beginning of this, when we started this, I'm giving promos the way I would give them, but obviously they would give the general gist of these promos, but the way that they do. So it would sound a lot better coming from them than it does from me. I'm just cutting my promo that they would valmorphinize into a good Hardy steel cage promo.
Fair enough. And now we move on to the next match.
Yeah, oh boy, are you sure you want this? It is Adam Page.
Because the only thing is that we've had a lot of promos now, so we need to get more match stuff.
That's right. Well, we had 2 promos in a row because it was we had
3 promos if you count Jim Cornette's dissertation.
If you count Jim's double, but this just gets that all taken care of. So we're back to the action here. It is Adam Page going one-on-one with Cody Rhodes with Katie Forbes.
I've come to accept it.
Now, thankfully, there is no promo cut tonight from Cody Rhodes and Katie Forbes. Well, Katie isn't really talking. She's just shaking her booty. This match goes 11 minutes. Here's the finish. Adam Page makes a comeback. Cody doesn't know what to do. Adam Page hits the buckshot lariat. Once Adam Page hits the buckshot lariat, Katie Forbes kind of slowly and seductively walks up the stairs and starts shaking her ass again on the ring. The referee was gonna go over there, but Paige goes there and grabs Katie. And Katie, as she's looking at Adam Page, just like plants a really sloppy like lick kiss that Adam Page just like shakes off. But that distraction is enough for Cody, with the referee distracted with getting Katie off the ring apron, hoofs Adam Page in the nads and hits the crossroads 1, 2, 3 with a rope assist just to further cheat even more.
Oh, come on. The crossroads would have been good enough, Cody. You didn't have to add the extra wound.
Oh, well, but of course Cody is royalty and he can do whatever he wants in the ring. And
also, I just like the fact that, isn't that technically a disqualification?
What, planting a kiss on Adam Page?
Yes.
I mean, I suppose. I mean, the referee's trying to get out of there, but a kiss is not necessarily a physical attack. I don't know if that's necessarily involvement. Maybe we'll have to have some sort of referee discussion about that. As on the next show, you'll have to stay tuned.
At least it's not Reginald helping Sasha Banks and Carmella do a Hurricane Rana.
Correct. And you never know where this Cody and Adam Page thing is, because I was going to have an aftermath in this match, but I restrained myself because I'm going to have that actually happen later.
Also, you don't have to be like AEW and have an afterbirth after every match.
Yeah, no, and actually I counted. I only have, I think, 2 total. And that includes the loogie that Shorty G hawked up at MJF. So we move on to the next match. The Briscoes come in, and they've come in with no microphone or anything like that. They have no opponent, because the Briscoes have been teased as having a mystery tag team here tonight. And so Mark gets a microphone, or actually he gets Jim Ross up there and he goes, interview us. And Jim Ross is like, well, Briscoes, you've just, and immediately Mark takes the microphone and goes, JR, I don't need you. I just needed you to come up here because you're the only one allowed to bring a microphone into the ring. Now that you're here and I've got the microphone, I don't need you in here. Get the hell out of the ring. Or Jay's going to kick the shit out of you. And so JR's like...
every single heel's job is to demean Jim Ross to the point where he needs therapy after every show.
And JR, he literally is like... You could see him saying, like, I'm getting too old for this shit. And he just, like, walks out of the ring. You could tell it's actually bothering him. Which, it would. Fairly. It would.
And watch this all pay off with Jim Ross killing every single heel on the roster.
Yeah, you never know. You never know where I'm leading JR. He's a valued member of the team. And so the Briscoes
Are you
say,
sure? Because so far you're not treating it like it.
that's right, but he is. He is very valued. But I understand Vince McMahon getting a jolly out of demeaning JR because it actually does kind of get the heat necessary. Because people don't like when people are mean to JR.
Just don't make fun of his cerebral palsy.
Which I would never do. We just tell him, but we did also put over his job, which is he's the only guy who could actually accept Matt Stryker. He's the only guy, or one of the only guys, who's at ringside who is actually allowed to bring a microphone into the ring and interview guys. Because this is not WWE where anyone can just take a microphone at any time, at any place, just because they want one. No, you actually have to get someone in the ring to do that. And then he just bullied JR back out of the ring because he's a bully.
Okay, fair enough.
So, the Briscoes is like, so I hear that we've got a tag match tonight against a mystery team. You think we care? You think we give a damn? We're the damn Briscoes. You see how little, just in our outfits, we care? We really don't at all about anything really, except being great wrestlers, which, hey, guess what? We are. And we'll do anything it takes to win against anybody. So, we're not afraid, Arn Anderson, of what you've brought here. So why don't you come on down and get the country fried ass whipping you guys deserve? And it doesn't even matter who it is, because just for challenging us, you deserve that ass whipping. So here comes, and then there's a little bit of silence, and then you hear two words. Can you guess what those two words are?
Beer money.
Beer money. Out comes Robert Roode and James Storm, and the crowd goes banana. And
Banana? Singular?
singular, the crowd goes banana. Thank you to the great Gorilla Monsoon. And
You can't say bananas because otherwise we get trademarked.
that's right. So of course this starts off with both of them in the ring, and of course the Briscoes don't know what to do. And this starts out actually, I don't want to say hot because it doesn't really start out hot. It's not a collar and elbow tie-up, so I guess that's a hot start. Or I guess it's more of a jump start. But it's not all four men in the ring brawling with each other hot start. This is like one Briscoe's in the corner, the other one's, the other is there. And actually what we can do to start this match, it'll be they come in, they get their big reception, Bobby Roode gets in the middle of the ring. James Storm is in his corner. Jay's in his corner. And then when Bobby Roode goes to turn around to talk to James Storm, then Mark Briscoe comes in and hits the forearm in the back of the head and starts the match.
Fair enough.
Heel deal. Okay, so here's the finish. This match goes 9 minutes. It's not going to take too long. Beer Money makes the comeback. Mark Briscoe tosses the brass knucks to Jay Briscoe, but James Storm sees it, and when he does, James Storm gets a swig of beer and spits the beer into Jay's face. And when Jay turns around, he gets the eye of the storm. And as Mark comes into the ring to run interference, Bobby Roode hits the spine buster, and they pin both of them for the win. Beer Money. Maybe he spits the beer afterwards. Just for fun.
You can spit the beer afterwards on top of them when they win.
That's fine. We'll do that. We'll just do a beer pour it on them. And we'll just leave it out of the
pour the beer
match.
on top of the Briscoes because Briscoes need a drink.
Again, I didn't put that much thought into this.
Beer money.
Yeah. Again, this was one of those matches I kind of just half-assed because I was trying to get to the better stuff. So they're here and they beat the Briscoes. That's what matters.
Now we need the feud that I really want, and you can go ahead and cut this part out if you want to cut it out. We need Beer Money versus Orange Guava.
Oh, God. Well, I've got more months to go, so you never know what you're going to see here.
With special guest referee Chris Jericho.
Oh, God. I'm keeping Chris out of this show. He is not sticking his nose into this business. He is not gonna
like he does with anything else.
He's not gonna belly bump his way in like the big alligator from Donkey Kong, whose name evades me at this moment. Tony Schiavone's got Titus O'Neil in the back, and Tony says, Titus, big match tonight. It's your second ACPW Heavyweight Championship match. This is again against, it's your first title match ever, but it's your second match against Jeff Cobb. What are you thinking going into this match? Titus O'Neil says, Tony, you've seen what Jeff Cobb has done. You've seen the reputation that the Cult of Cornette has put upon ACPW, and you've seen my efforts to try and make this place a respectable place, to make this place where everyone worldwide could look at ACPW and say, that is a place where honorable men compete in honorable matches for honorable championships. But there's no honor among thieves, and there's no honor among people like Jim Cornette and people like Jeff Cobb. And tonight, when I win the ultimate prize, something I've worked far too hard to get to, I will be the man that takes Jeff Cobb down. And I will be damned if I let their reign of terror continue. It stops tonight, and I'm going to be the man to do it. Bottom line, Tony, the bottom line, Titus O'Neil is the man who's going to get the job done so that you and everyone in ACPW can have a champion they respect.
Because there's only one man who is worthy of going worldwide.
I did say the worldwide.
With the ACPW World Championship.
I tried to low-key it in this time instead of making it very obvious that I was adding the worldwide in.
No. Come on, this is professional wrestling. Go worldwide with it.
It is, but I also don't want to give Titus O'Neil WWE's gimmick because I built him too good for that.
Of what? Using a catchphrase in this promo?
Yes. Because half of the time when they do these catchphrases on these promos, it just doesn't work. I want to add it in subtly so it doesn't feel manufactured.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. And so here we go. The next matchup. Randy Orton versus Brian Cage. Here we go. 14 minutes this match goes. Because it's not going to be long, but it's going to be big. The finish of this match, Brian Cage makes the comeback. He's getting ready for a discus clothesline. Randy Orton hits an RKO out of nowhere, but Brian Cage gets to the ropes at the 2 count. Randy Orton is going to go again for a punt, and when he goes for a punt, instead Brian Cage gets out of the way, picks Randy Orton's arms, hits him with a backslide. 1, 2, 3. Brian Cage wins, but Randy Orton did not get definitively flatline beaten.
That's a good finish. I'm not going to lie. It's a very good finish. It's definitely going to help Brian Cage, but also keeps Randy Orton strong.
Yes. And it also, once again, leaves openings to potentially continuing this feud. I haven't quite decided yet. But you can make the case it should with a fin like
Yes, you can. Yes, you can indeed.
So Brian Cage, who deservedly should have won this match, but I don't think this blows off the feud either, because it's not a definitive babyface win. Really.
But it doesn't have to be. It just needs to be something that could give Brian Cage a victory, but also keep Randy Orton alive for a possible rematch down the line.
Right.
If you choose to go down that route.
Right.
Plus, it also leads to the thing that the Cult of Cornette is not exactly immortal.
Exactly. And it's also not a good start on the night for the Cult of Cornette. Now, the next match. This is going to be something. And now I will openly admit, I don't know how much I love this finish. But I think for what I'm trying to do going forward, it's the finish I have to do. Because I will admit to you, Sky. I will admit to you, Sky, because I started looking at where these teams were headed after today, and I had no game plan. and I realized I booked myself into a pretty significant corner extending this feud. But I think I've got it now to where it's going to make sense.
Let's hear it.
So it is Adam Cole and Roderick Strong versus Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly get to the ring, and we hear that we're actually going to hear from Adam Cole and Roderick Strong before they come out. And Cole and Roddy are there, and Tony Schiavone is once again back with these two, and they're about to talk, and Britt Baker comes in from the side. And Adam's like, Britt, what are you doing here? Yeah, I told you to wait in the back. And Britt goes, like hell I'm waiting in the back. Last time you told me to wait in the back, you got your asses beaten in, and I saw your skull nearly caved in by those two assholes. I'm coming with you this time. I don't care what kind of danger I'm in. I can take a punch. I've done it before. I came back from a chair shot from these two. I'm not letting them mess with you. I'm coming. And Adam's like, all right. And Roddy's like, are you sure? And Adam's like, what choice do I have? She's going to come out anyway. And it's like, I really don't want you to be out there. And Britt's like, no, I'm coming out with you. And they're like, okay, I guess. And
that's why I love you.
And that's, yeah, and that's all the interview time we had. So I guess it's time to go out. So here we go. Sorry, Tony. And Tony kind of like, well, let's go back to the ring, I guess. And so Adam Cole.
At least Tony Schiavone didn't get demasculated.
Yeah, no, that was roughly damage free to Tony Schiavone. And so out comes Cole and Roddy, and Britt Baker is there. Here's the finish. Roderick Strong is the one who makes the comeback. Cole is fighting Bobby Fish on the outside and sees that Fish is kind of getting the advantage of Cole. Now, Britt Baker is like talking smack at this time, like still like over there. So she's in this like general vicinity, right? Roddy sees the opportunity to hit Bobby Fish, and I never do this. But for these guys, I'm going to make an exception. Roderick Strong is going to dive in between the middle ropes. Because, we'll get to that.
Ooh.
So he's going to dive through the middle ropes. But Bobby Fish sees him coming. And instead, Bobby Fish gets out of the way, and Roddy ends up hitting both Adam Cole and Britt Baker. And Britt Baker doesn't really get hurt that bad. It's like a glancing blow. Like gets like an arm hit at her. But she goes down, right? It's not like she doesn't take the brunt of the fall. So just to clarify how damaged Britt would be as a result of this. Adam Cole, who was hurt like a bit, then Kyle O'Reilly gets the advantage on Roddy. They bring him back into the ring, and they're getting ready to do more of their things. Riley goes to hit a Shining Wizard. Now, Adam Cole gets up while this is happening, and he's checking on Britt Baker. And he's just checking on Britt Baker, who is okay, but she's sitting up. She's talking to Adam, it's got her on. But as this is happening, O'Reilly hits a Shining Wizard and gets a 2 count. Cole is still by Britt Baker, and Adam then finally, O'Reilly he tries to hit the guillotine, but instead Roderick Strong changes it into a devastating backbreaker. And as Roderick Strong is going to go for the tag, he goes to his corner, and Cole is still by Britt Baker, checking on checking on his wife. And Adam Cole is not there. And when he's not there, O'Reilly gets the advantage, hits a big suplex, and then Fish, who gets tagged right in, hits a big fisherman buster, because Bobby Fish, and gets the pin on Roddy. 1, 2, 3.
In an unintentional way, Britt Baker crossed Adam Cole and Roderick Strong. It's not. If you're Roddy, you have to be frustrated.
Of course, because Cole is still focusing on Britt Baker, and
it's definitely a way to get the heels of victory, and I believe it's 1-1 now.
It is, But that doesn't necessarily mean that these two are going to face each other again. You
At
know,
least not right away.
yeah, there's no guarantee. But I think this is the thing. Was I didn't want Fish and O'Reilly to win by cheating again. I couldn't do that. It was just too much to have them do it all the time. Especially because all my heels cheat, which is fine. That's what they're supposed to do. But at some point, especially with this feud, which is as personal as it was, I wanted this to be a little bit cleaner for Fish and O'Reilly, even though they were still being heels during this whole matchup. This isn't like they did a fuck finish.
And that's something else, too, I think wrestling fans need to understand is that not all heels need to cheat in order to be heels.
Not all the time.
You just have to take advantage of situations. Plus, I find it ironic that you are, again, using Britt Baker as the middle centerpiece of the storyline. That's ultimately what this is.
Well, this is...
It's that Adam Cole changed because of Britt Baker, and now his victories and failures are because of Britt Baker. Whether it's an inspiration from her attack or whether it's from the situation being distracted.
And it's going to be interesting going forward with these four on that basis. I really, of all of the stories that I've built here, and especially because I didn't really have like a long-term game plan for this beyond what would end up happening in December, right? Extending this, I had no game plan for. But the depth of where Adam Cole and Britt Baker were then to where they are now and how it's affected everyone around them has really made for some interesting matchups and how this feud has gone down. And there's definitely still more to this story.
And I just think, originally you didn't even draft her on purpose. It's because JoshAgeddon gave her.
I know, what a gift. I have been, every time that somebody has tried to swerve me with a pick, I have tried to make lemonade out of those lemons. And
you succeeded for the most part.
For the most part,
because
Santina was a stretch.
I mean, it was a good payoff.
It was a good payoff. But speaking of good payoffs, well, by the way, that match went 18 minutes, that Cole and Roddy and Fish and O'Reilly match. I gave that some time. So, then we have our, I hate using the word co-main event, but it's the match.
Use the word co-main event because that's what it's supposed to be.
It's the ACPW Heavyweight Championship of the World. It is Jeff Cobb going it alone for the first time without Jim Cornette, because Cornette is focused on this steel cage match coming up. Jeff Cobb going it alone against Titus O'Neil. And so this matchup goes 11 minutes. And I'm going to give Titus O'Neil something that very few have ever had happen.
Is he going to knock down Jeff Cobb?
Jeff Cobb is going to bump for Titus O'Neil because he nearly got him down the last time. And this time, I think that Titus O'Neil deserves taking Jeff Cobb down and Jeff Cobb taking a bump. And now that Jeff Cobb has taken a bump, if you choose the right people, it's fine. You know, so Titus O'Neil and Jeff Cobb go 11 minutes of their like hour-long time limit, but these two, this is not a pairing that should have a lot of time.
Because honestly, you don't need long matches in order for them to be good matches.
Yeah, not with these two. I don't think that a long match has ever been Titus O'Neil's strong point, and I can't imagine it would be for Cobb either.
No, not that.
So, anyway, so we get to this final bit here. Titus O'Neil is actually closing in on a win. He has countered the deadlift power slam into a big boot. And as he's going into a big boot, and oh, you're going to hate me for this finish. You're going to hate me for this finish. He gets the big boot. Jeff Cobb is down, and he's sizing him up for a clash to the Titus. And as Titus O'Neil is backing up to the ropes, Randy Orton has run down and takes the shoulders of Titus O'Neil and pulls him over the top rope. It is an over-the-top rope disqualification. Titus O'Neil wins, doesn't win the title.
You bitch.
This is what happens. Randy Orton.
Oh, my
Because
goodness.
Jim Cornette said that the cult is never alone. Randy Orton comes out and beats the piss out of these guys, out of Titus O'Neil, and Jeff Cobb is there and of course helping out, and they throw him into the ring, and we find out that Brian Cage has actually left already. He has left on the night, so he's not there to help make the save, even though there are some baby faces who are coming in to try to stop, and Randy Orton and Jeff Cobb are just beating him down, and the referees are trying to come in. Then Randy Orton, who has come in, what they didn't see, what he was carrying, he had some buckets that he brought with him. And he brought a bucket, and so he takes this bucket, and it's got this dark liquid, and just Jeff Cobb is holding Titus O'Neil down. He takes this big bucket of oil and just dumps it all over Titus O'Neil, front and back. And then he pulls out a pillow. And he cuts the pillow, and he lays the feathers down, turns them around, lays the feathers down. He has been, as Jim Cornette said, Titus O'Neil was afraid of Jeff Cobb. And as a result, he has been tarred and feathered like the chicken he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything bad about that. It's just there's a little bit of a racial undertone.
It's not meant to be such. It is not meant to be such. But think about this at the same time. Would that not also add to the heat? I'm not saying it's good heat, but it would add to the heat.
Yes, but
I'm not saying it's good heat, but it further adds to Titus O'Neil better kick the shit out of somebody. Because that's humiliating. And I took this straight out of 2 and TA, because I think it was it the Midnight? I think it was the Midnight who tarred and feathered TA in the same cowardice angle, talking about cowardice. And because I'm not doing anything, I'm not mentioning race at all, and it's more about being the chicken than it is about actually, anything racist about it, being afraid to face Jeff Cobb and afraid of a man like Jeff Cobb. And to humiliate Titus O'Neil, who is just a humanitarian, he's just trying to do right by people. People who love Titus O'Neil would be furious that he got embarrassed like this.
I suppose it's okay because you didn't specifically say race in the storyline, so I guess that's fine. Just be careful because it's a slippery slope.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there would be a whole myriad of people who would just say, oh, he's racist. Right? I know that there's that group of people without listening to any of the context of what I've just given, because I want to emphasize there's nothing racial about this. I would do this exact same angle if it wasn't Titus O'Neil, but somebody else who was a massive humanitarian. Right? I want to make that clear. That has nothing to do with it.
And not to mention that Jim Cornette has done this to anyone and everyone in the past.
Right.
This is a playbook straight out of the Jim Cornette playbook.
Yeah, it makes canonical sense for Jim to do this and for the cult to do this. And Titus O'Neil is going to want to lay the smack down when he finally gets his hands on somebody. Would you not be furious?
Oh, I'd be absolutely furious if I was tarred and feathered. But I'm not Titus O'Neil. But Titus O'Neil, that big boy, he's going to do some pain.
Yeah. He without stealing somebody else's thing, but somebody's going to get their ass kicked. Somebody's going to get the wig split.
Okay, enough of that. We can move on to our main event because we have a big main event match.
That's right. Now, if only we had Mark Henry at this moment, but that's okay. That's okay. We love you,
Well,
Mark.
he's retired. Well, if he wrestles the match, he's eligible to be drafted.
That's right. But, as you said, we've got a hell of a closer here. It is FTR and the Hardys. steel cage match. Final match of the night on Melee in Montreal. Jim Cornette does escort FTR to the ring, although he is obviously not allowed in the cage, which has a roof, by the way. I changed my mind on that. No one gets in, no one gets out. That's the rules.
Because that's what a cage match should be.
And that's what this has been built up to be. Cornette has interfered twice in major title matches where the Hardys had the match won. They lost both of those matches because of Jim Cornette. Now it's time to get Cornette out of the equation to get their titles. They hope. So here's how this match goes down. Can you guess how long this match went, Sky?
18 minutes.
No, longer.
How much longer?
32.
Why?
Because this match is a barn burner. And because I want to get a lot of heat on this one. I want FTR to get a ton of heat. And the way they're going to do that is that FTR and the Hardys, you know, they're immediately brawling. There's huge, you know, obviously babyface shine. They're just beating the tar out of FTR. And then Jeff Hardy gets into the corner. And as he's like going into the corner, like probably like to get a swanton or something, Cornette, who's on the corner, gets one thing. You just hear a clink, one latch through, and Jeff Hardy his hand has been cuffed to the cage.
Oh no, you're doing the handcuff angle.
This is the one and only time I'm ever using handcuffs in a ring. Because at the very least, it would make sense. And Jim, as he's doing this, and he goes, ha, 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 I just locked you in the cage, and he sees the key. He pulls out the key, shows it to Jeff, and, like, puts it right into his front coat pocket. You know, just to be like, guess who's not moving, sucker? And so he taunts Jeff, and immediately FTR gets the heat on Matt. And the crowd's booing because obviously now they've taken advantage again. Jim Cornette wasn't supposed to get involved, and even in a cage match, Jim found a way to get the advantage for FTR. Tons of heat. Then finally, Jim Cornette, as he's walking over and taunting Jeff because he's like, you're about to lose your titles, Jeff gets his other hand and grabs the tie of Jim Cornette and pulls him into the cage. So that Jim's face is smushed up against it, and his coat, more importantly, is smushed up against it. And as he switches to his caged hand to hold the tie, he gets his other hand to sneak into that pocket and pull out that key. And he pulls out the key. Cornette, obviously, he releases the tie. He unhooks the handcuff, and now Jeff Hardy's back in action. And now Jeff makes a comeback. They're fighting back and forth. Jeff gets the advantage. He sacrificed, and then finally, as Jeff looks like he's about to get it again, Jim Cornette again climbs the cage, and Jeff says, it's time. And of course, you got to understand, all four of these guys have gotten juice. It's a 32-minute cage match. I think that goes without saying. And so Jim Cornette starts to climb the cage, I guess to try and like rattle it to either distract him or get FTR out of there. And Jeff Hardy just takes his body and just cross bodies the cage like a lawn dart into Cornette. Cornette falls to the ground and takes a wicked bump. So he finally gets.
How big of a bump are you giving Jordan Cornette?
He's not going 12 feet high, but he's gonna get. You know, he's pretty much at the very base of the cage. Might be like one step higher. He's not climbing all the way to the top. But a little.
Okay, good. You're not going to have him do the Chris Jericho bump, right?
Oh, dear God. Dear God, no. We're talking like a third of the way up the cage. Barely an apron bump.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Yeah, no,
we don't need any more bad bumps like what Jericho does.
No, I would not do that to Jim. Dear God, no. But Jim's incapacitated, and then that's enough for Matt to get the advantage. Dax gets thrown in. Matt Hardy gets a twist of fate. Jeff Hardy, after sacrificing his body, gets up to the top, hits the swanton, the cover. 1, 2, 3. They did it.
He's giving them the titles.
You have your new ACPW Tag Team Champions after a year and change of fighting or almost a year, 11 months, in fact, of chasing those ACPW heavyweight championships all around after FTR had screwed them over on the very debut episode, and then again at the season 1 finale at Winter Warcraft, and then all the way until here in Melee in Montreal, where there was no one could get in, no one could get out, and the fair was fair. When they finally got him in the ring, when the odds were even, and even when evens became odd.
Cornette still cheated, and Jim Cornette still cheated, but they found a way to get past him.
And they did it. The Hardys did it. The place goes absolutely insane. Matt and Jeff embrace, both guys bleeding, both holding up the championships triumphantly. The cult of Cornette has taken a serious blow here tonight. But what will become of ACPW going forward, you'll have to find that out next week. Melee in Montreal closes with the Hardys winning a hard-fought cage match.
Now, just think about this for a second, folks. On one show, we had a year-long story about Edge's redemption. On the other show, we had a year-long chase from the Hardys for the tag titles.
Both of which with very successful payoffs, I would believe.
And both of them with long-term planning and storytelling, multiple steps in the story process. It's not that hard.
It's not. It's really not. To get from there to here, I mean, there are a lot of difficulties with booking, as we've discussed before, but the general concepts are fairly simple.
I mean, I understand. It's a year-long. People's attention spans may go at points, and coming up with stuff for them to do in the middle is difficult.
Yeah.
But if you have the beginning, you have the end goal, and you know what you're eventually going to get, as long as it makes sense, you can tell a story from beginning to end.
Yeah. And the thing that I didn't expect about this show is that there were a lot of things I did not want to end on this show. And I had to do a lot to kind of subvert that without making it feel like a B pay-per-view. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, crap finish. And oh, you know, it's like, yeah, I had to do a couple non-finishes. You know, I had the over-the-top rope disqualification for Titus O'Neil. And I had to do the draw with MJF and Shorty G. But I honestly feel like the way that this show was structured, you wouldn't mind seeing them occasionally, especially for the purposes of what the ultimate end goal will eventually be. And it's hard to see that in the present.
It is. But as long as you have the correct payoffs at the end, I think it's fine. As long as you give enough payoffs. And that main event payoff is worth it for the rest of the show because you got the Hardys the victory they needed.
Yeah. Yeah, they could not lose that cage match. There was no way they would. Now, if this were WWE, they would have lost that cage match. But this is not WWE. This is one of those times where predictable booking works because it would make no sense not to give the Hardys this win. It's. Could you imagine, though?
Vince McMahon would agree. Well, yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a good note to end.
Yeah, I think so. We, without giving WWE any more credit than they deserve, by God, this might be the best episode of this we've had yet. As far as the overall show quality.
It's only going to get better.
Yeah, and much further to go, folks. But with that said, it's time for our first commercial break. When we come back, brand new show. JoshAgeddon's there. Any last words, Sky?
So, I have a question. Is it a three-man booth next week?
It is a three-man booth next week.
Oh, boy.
That's right. So stay tuned for that. We're going to have a live stream match of the week and more. Thank you all for listening, and we will be right back after this short break.